you going? What's been happening?
No, I'm trying to go to bed earlier so I wake up earlier, but it's backfired because I went to bed about 9:30, 10 o'clock, which is really early for me. Usually I'm in bed midnight, go to sleep by 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I went to bed at 9:30, 10 last night, and I woken up at 3, and I was just wide awake until like 8 o'clock this morning. So it's going to take time to get used to it. I don't know.
Well, that's a little bit early. You should maybe aim for 11:30, but that's from 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock till 3 is a 5.5, 6 hour sleep.
Yeah. So it's probably too early for me, unless I can drag it out a couple of hours, because I wouldn't mind getting up around 6 o'clock each day. It's tough because I've got an internet business. Like I don't have a office that I have to be at by any certain time. So, my mornings are a little bit loose. I just get up, take my time, getting my stuff together. But I know I've been liking the idea of getting things done earlier, so...
Yeah, if you get a routine of... Yeah, absolutely. That would be good.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Well, not much, mate. Just soaking up the beautiful rain that's been happening over the weekend in Sydney. It's good.
Yeah, that's good for the farmers, eh?
Not enough. I don't think the farmers got a lot, but
no,
there was a couple of drizzly days here and there, but yeah, I don't think it's made any impact. But what's made an impact is there's been some big stories coming out in the league and stuff. Starting middle of the week last week when Lance Thompson surprisingly passed away.
That shocked the shit out of me. That you never see things like that coming, but yeah, that was terrible. Bloody shock, wasn't it? Poor family. I heard his daughter found him. And...
Yeah, that's the story. I'm not sure whether initially it was thought of self-harm, but since then the story goes there was some sort of a health issue or...
Yeah, I think they've got to be careful with jumping to conclusions and just wait. And yeah, like I don't like to be any sort of an investigative journalist for these type of things. You just let the story roll out and see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's just devastating. He was a well-known figure in rugby league, definitely.
Did you meet him?
Yeah, I used to see him down at Cronulla every now and then and just say quick g'day. I was never close to him. Once I went with Brett Furman and Stuart Webb to a restaurant over near St George there, and he was there, and we had a feed together and just had a chat. He seemed like a nice kind of fellow. I saw him out a few times in Coogee having beers with his team, and I'd be there with a few teammates, and we just cross paths, say good day and whatnot. He's always had time to say good day, and because we were younger, he was older, he kind of established, and he was always that kind of guy to say good day to the younger fellas and the up and comers and all that. So I don't know much of him other than that, which. Yeah.
Well, he was much loved, mate. There's tributes flowing from everyone over the weekend, and they had a minute silence at Cronulla, the Cronulla game, and the Dragons had the same thing with his daughter that came onto the field and spent that minute silence with the team as well. That was very touching and sad.
Yeah, it must be very tough for them at the moment. And he's had two little, I think 3 or 4 year old twins. I think maybe twins. I could be wrong.
His eldest daughter was there, and along with those two young ones as well, holding hands with her. So it was really
really sad. Buddy, I wonder what happened, and I hope he wasn't in too much pain or. Geez, it's just a shock. Don't know how to bloody respond to it, really, but hopefully everyone gets through it.
Yeah. So and also we had Jonathan Thurston's playing his last game this weekend, but he played his last game up at Townsville.
Yep.
Had a great turnout. Pretty much a sellout. People came from far and wide, Queensland, to watch this champion player's last game at home.
They smacked our gang, didn't they?
Oh, didn't they smack them? They came out of the blocks. And you could just tell they were just doing it for Thurston, and they just had no answer. Parramatta. They scored a try in the second half there, but it was 38-0 at half time.
Wonder what Jonathan, old JT, is going to do after footy.
Well, he's got a lot of options there. Obviously Channel 9, Fox. He'll be hunted as a doing something on the TV for the footy.
Because I was under the impression he's not a big fan of speaking on camera, and it's not his thing. Like,
okay, well, that might be the case.
I don't know. I could be wrong. I just remember seeing him do it a few times, and he didn't seem to really enjoy it that much, or maybe he was just shy. It was something new for him. I don't know. But geez, it's not like he hasn't got the best insight ever coming from, he'd have to be one of the greatest of all time, you'd say, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, you know what I think about all that all-time greatest player thing.
Yeah.
Definitely the best in his era.
Yeah,
sure.
you have to say that for sure. The amount of times he's been in a pressure cooker situation and delivered, I reckon he'd have more wins in those battles than not, like in those moments where you got to kick the goal to win or put on the big play to win. He always seems he's a regular big moment winner, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And he just played so well above his weight, didn't he? He wasn't a big player in any sense, but he just had that.
Yeah, it used to spin me out. I used to watch players like that who were so good, but not massive kind of athletic humans. Although he's a bit bigger and stronger than he looks on TV. When you see him in real life, he's a really lean, kind of muscular, dense kind of, raw boned athlete. But yeah, I don't know. I remember the last time I felt like I do about him, about someone else, was Joey Johns. When Joey Johns used to be in those big moments, I'd be like, something will happen here. He'll fix this, or he'll make this happen. And the same with Johnathon Thurston. But I think I remember feeling that way that Johnathon Thurston more often. Joey was plagued a little bit more so by injury a lot of times.
Yeah. Thurston's played just under 420 games, which includes Queensland, 37 games for Queensland and just 39 tests for Australia. Yeah, so his body would be feeling it now, wouldn't it? I remember watching when they had a televised game, the Cowboys, they had the wide shot of the dressing room and you'd see the players getting changed or whatever. And this one particular shot I remember seeing about 4 or 5 years ago of Thurston trying to put his jersey on because he's got these restrictive harnesses for his shoulders.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's they're like seat belts.
Yeah, and he needs help to put his jersey on. So they had the trainers or whatever trying to put it on, but he played, halfway through his career there with shoulder problems, and he just about played every game. Amazing mental toughness and
just a real tough competitor who just always wanted to be on the field no matter what, did whatever it took to get over his injuries, and he was always there. He just remember. I remember just thinking sometimes watching him like, when is he going to break down? Like he just doesn't stop, Yeah, playing for Queensland in those massive situations, like those big occasions, and just delivering every single time, like dominating the big games often, like always making his mark on a massive game. Like it's just like shit. He was just born to do it, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was a bit like that. He was born to play the game, and just been a wonderful ambassador for the Cowboys in NRL, and that he's been touted that role model and that. But just the little things he did on the field, when after he kicked a goal, he'd pick up and he started all this sort of stuff, this niceness on the field. After he kicked the game, he'd hand the tee to the ball boy.
Yeah,
and tap him on the head, and then after the game, he'd give away his headgear to someone in the front row, some young kid in the front row. It was just some really nice, wonderful touches.
Yeah, he's started a few crazes doing that kind of thing. He became a big part of his legacy, didn't it?
Before that, anyone who kicked the ball would just let the tee sort of fly off and let the ball kick it up.
Made everyone else look like an arsehole, really, didn't it? Thanks a lot, JT. Geez, what is this, the friggin' JT show or something?
Well, he deserves it, mate. He's been such a part of the game. It's funny when someone retires like that, and all those great Queensland players that are all sort of retiring around the same time. It tells you've gotten 10 to 15 years older too. When you look back, you think, oh, I've just aged 10 to 15 years anyway, watching this player run around. Yeah.
That's some memories there. Geez, it'd be hard to remember all the big ones. His highlights package is going to be pretty special. Can't wait to have a look at that. I just constantly remember that scene of him on the sideline ready to kick a goal to win the game, and he'd do it 9 out of 10 times. And I just remember constantly thinking, he's done it again. Like, how do you friggin' just, relax in those moments, those big moments where it's all on you?
Yeah.
That's what the greats do.
They do. Well, the greats have that ability to be able to reject anything from the outside. No outside influences having anything to do with what you're doing right there and then.
Michael Jordan used to say he wants the ball in the last 20 seconds when the game's on the line, he wants the ball. Like, and not a lot of people think like that. They're like, oh, shit, I just want to get through that 20 seconds. I remember playing Jersey Flag when I was first starting to play at Para in the senior grades, and I was playing Jersey Flag, and Anthony Minchillo was playing for the Roosters, and there was like a minute or 30 seconds to go or something, and I remember we were about to put a kick up, pressuring the Roosters' end to be, and if we had scored and kicked a goal to be a draw, and I remember thinking, I'm going to think like Jordan here. I want the ball in my hand. I want the ball in my hand. Give me the ball. So the bomb went up, and just a big, massive bodies just all ran in together and just clashed, and kind of people were falling over. And what happened was I couldn't get to where the ball was falling, so I was like, oh, well, that doesn't work. And then the ball has bounced off someone and straight into my hands, and I was like pretty much standing over the try line, just put the ball down, and I scored.
Big try.
And, yeah. So I couldn't believe
bet you were
like,
fucked after that, mate.
Oh, I was bugging, I got carried off the field. I was the champion. No, it was only a draw, but I was just like, I just said to myself, I want the ball in this pressure cooker situation. And it came to me via accident, or whether it was divine intervention, I don't know. And I, scored, and we kicked the goal, and it was a draw, and it was like we won the grand final. But
Rugby league.
It was one of those great moments. Then we went up to the Excite nightclub. It was called Excite after it, and geez, didn't we turn one on?
Did you?
I saw the great Minchillo. He was up on the podium just sweating it out. He had a ponytail undercut back then.
back in the days where you could go out after a game and not get bothered.
Yeah, well, see, Brian Smith was coach, and he was pretty big on professionalism and not being pissheads and getting your body right. So we had to be a little bit sneaky sometimes, because he'd plot some of his staff to go out and just to keep an eye on things. So we're always eyes in the back of our heads. I got in trouble a few times, like for going out probably a little bit too much. But, you're just young. It's a new world, and you just wanted to get out and party with your mates. But
yeah, absolutely. Having a few beers after the game. I remember after the games and that, we'd have cans of beer that came in. There was a big ice bucket that was full of beers, and we'd have a couple of beers straight after the game. In the dressing room, and then we'd put a few into our bags to take out and to take home. Yeah, I remember at the Roosters they did that. They used to bring in buckets of what do they call Crown Lagers after every game, and then it just slowly got outlawed. But the other night I saw that Josh Maguire on TV, and he had a beer in his hand on the field, and he was walking around the field like saying good day to the fans and friends and whatever. And he was sipping like a plastic cup of beer. So, some clubs still don't mind, but, a lot of them don't want that association. But, it was different. Geez, it changed very quickly. Like, because when I started in 99, it had only been professional for 2 years. So I think 97 it came in where it became a full-time job, and Brian Smith took over Parramatta, and then obviously 98 I wasn't there. When I came in 99, they'd kind of established a bit of a system, and then it just got more and more each year. I remember 2000 went to another level, and then 2001 pre-season was like, I felt like we were in the NFL, like the way we were training and the professionalism and how serious it was, and it was full on, and that kind of old school kind of 80s, late 90s, early 90s, late 90s mentality kind of started to drift away, and it became like this real professional athlete system, And did you... There's a lot of talk about the Dylan Napa tackle. It's sort of divided people on what they thought of it and what it does to rugby league. Did you check that out?
Yeah, I love Dylan Napa as a player and a bloke. I've met him a few times. He's such a nice kid off the field. But I got to be really honest. When I saw that, I was like, oh shit, he's gone for the year. I thought he probably would be, just because it's happened before. And did you see the bloke on the ground after it happened?
Yeah, well, he knocked him out in the air, so he's hit the ground sort of just totally limp. Yeah. No,
but he was having like convulsions, and it looked like he'd had a really it looked like he could possibly just drop dead. I was thinking, shit, this bloke's going to die. He was shaking, and he was like kind of trying to, I guess, in his head trying to get up or something, but it was just it
was awful. Fit. It was fit-like, wasn't it? It was like a little fit.
Yeah, it was like a fit. I thought he was having a seizure or something, and straight away the feeling that came over me was, that's just it can't be right. Like, and I'm all for the biff, and I'm all for big hits and shoulder charges, I even wish that was still around. But when you kind of lead with your head like that, whether it was intentional this time or not, I don't even know. But I just think because of the history that he's had with doing it before, I think, yeah, it's just too dangerous, man. That looked like he had a severe car crash or something, and he was, it was just.
Well, it was pretty similar. It was like a big truck had hit him, but it's a questionable technique. It's definitely reckless, but I mean, it's like most things in the game today. It's been cleaned up. It's not acceptable in today's game. So,
no, I don't think it needs to be a bigger issue going on about it in the media. He's got a ban. I can understand if people think he should have got longer, but they're dealing with it. Like, it's not allowed. Obviously, it's not like it's a grey area. They're saying no, that's not on. Which is good. They made a stand on it. He would regret it straight away. I could tell in his face when the camera was on him afterwards. He was like, "Oh shit, what have I done?" It's hard, man, in that aggressive, high octane sport to really curb your passion and emotion and anger when it's just so gladiatorial. You just kind of sometimes have brain snaps in that mind frame. It's hard to maintain professionalism in that mindset of kill someone, you know what I mean? And no matter what anyone says, that's what everyone's thinking. Like the forwards especially, when people are running them, they're like, let's whack this effing whatever.
Well, he's trying to make a statement by coming up with a big hit. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
you said that a lot of people are saying that he leads with his head, but I've studied it a fair bit. He's tilting his head to the side, so he's opening up the side of his head and his shoulder. So there's an area there that he's trying to hit with, and he's launching. He comes from, his knees are bent and he's launching sort of sideways where his head is open. He tilts it sideways. He closes his eyes at a certain point, so he's just hoping for the best, which is reckless in itself. But if the ball carrier doesn't change his path or comes in open, it's a killing.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I personally think if he broke it down, the science of what he's doing physically, I reckon he's going in and at some stage he knows that his head's going to come into contact with someone, I believe. Oh,
yeah. If both times the player, like with Corbin Sims earlier in the year, both players changed their path leading up to it. But, yeah, and if you can read it, and because he comes very late, it's very hard to read. You can't adjust.
Yeah.
It's a lottery to how it hits and how it ends up.
Yeah, and I think, and obviously he knows, and it's great that they've made a stance on it because just imagine, worst case scenario, imagine that guy died, and that sounds like pretty dramatic, but that's a pretty fierce head collision with two big, strong guys running at each other at pace, and it can happen. Like, that's a possibility if you get a head blow like that. Like, so imagine he passed away on the field. Like, what the hell would you say then? Like,
well, of course, but that that didn't happen. But yeah, I know it
but
can.
That's how close it could be, and I just think like it's good. Yeah, I'm glad that there's no, because that's too gruesome. That's too gruesome. Shoulder charge is one thing. Head jamming into the face of another fella, whether it's intentional or not, it needs to be less reckless and
hasn't the game changed? I mean, in the 70s, a tackle like that, he would have been patted on the back by his teammates, and the home game crowd would have gone crazy and praised him. And but now it's
like, oh shit. I think when he was convulsing on the ground, everyone was like,
not good, not good.
Yeah. That's all right. No, Dylan, he'll know. Like, he won't be able to do that again, or he'll get freaking a year suspension.
There were some tweets on Twitter saying that Dylan Napa protects himself by moving his head, but what he's really doing is he's opening up his. He could get hit in the temple too. It could have the reverse effect where he could knock himself out.
Yeah,
and
it's
his
not
temple.
good for him either.
No, absolutely
definitely. Not. It's for the good of the game and for both parties to put a bit of a stop to that kind of movement. But mate, I love watching Dylan Napa play because I just know he's aggressive and he's gonna whack someone in the game, or he's gonna at least attempt to. But if he can obviously just make it with his shoulder, which he's done plenty of other times.
Yep.
Both times they seem to have, like you said, changed the angle at the last second as he's gone in and he's committed. They've gone to put some footwork on him, and it's just ended up pear-shaped.
Yeah, but it's at the point. Looking at that video footage of McCulloch, as soon as he realised the path that he was going to, it looked like, I went, oh no, here we go. Bang, it was just happening in that split second. But 3 weeks.
He's a big hombre, isn't he, Napa? He's a big human.
He is.
I saw him in the street in Double Bay one night. I was going to have a beer, and he was with a couple of mates just standing at the front of a bar.
Yep.
And I went up and said, "Hey, Nap, what's going on?" And he, as I got closer, I was like, "Shit, he's a monster, this kid. Far out. What a massive man mountain."
Yeah,
so gentle, such a gentle giant off the field. Like, he was really, you know, happy to meet and speak to me, and he's just a big, soft kind of...
And he's a Queenslander. Why do Queensland get all these good players and these big monsters? Why?
Something in the tap water up here tastes weird, actually. It does. It really does.
Have you grown breasts since you've been up there?
Steroids in it or something.
You've grown breasts, haven't you?
I wish I did. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you can grow breasts in the gym if you actually go to the gym.
Yeah, the water tastes weird up here. I wonder if that's got anything to do with it, because there's some gun footballers from the Sunshine State. What else? Have you seen Parramatta's, or what's called Western Sydney Stadium? Have you seen the developments?
Yeah, I saw some overhead footage the other day. It just looks it's going to be magnificent. What a cauldron!
Yeah, it looks awesome. It's I don't know. It's a little bit weird in regards to because watching footy lately. We were watching it again the other night, and I was standing upstairs with some mates, and we were like, look at in the background. There is no one in the stands. Like, it looks that bad. It looks like it's a warm-up game for a first grade.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's just, and
it's not a good look.
We were all talking about it, thinking, what could you do? And we just came to the conclusion that we know, okay, pretend money wasn't an issue. You'd take everything back to the local, or the original fields, and just fill them out. Make it a sellout, make it hard to get in there. That's better for the brand than going to these big corporate stadiums and barely being able to fill them.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. The suburban grounds, they've changed the game so much. They've even changed where a team can play on these suburban grounds. Teams like South being back at Redfern. I mean, on the game day, it was an absolute nightmare to get parking, and all the adjoining businesses had problems and bits and pieces, and council complaints and all that sort of stuff. So, and then the NRL making it a showpiece, making teams play at the big stadiums and stuff like that. It has changed the way the game looks, no doubt.
It's taken that kind of battle war, suburb versus suburb or type feel away from it. And they get a lot of money to take their games to the corporate stadium. So
the clubs do. The clubs can't knock it back because there's such good money for the clubs themselves.
I think it was something. I remember when I was playing, it was like $80,000 the club got to take the game to Homebush.
When I was on the board, it was it came up early in the season that how many games Parramatta were going to play there. $125,000 a pop straight into Parramatta's pocket.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so you can see from a business sense why it makes sense to do it, but I don't know. And for a long-term thing, like if you could look past that, that those slabs of money, don't you think it would? If everyone was on board and it became a law that you couldn't do that, imagine the strength of the game if you're constantly seeing packed-out stadiums on TV too. Like they say, it's all about the product on TV, but the product on TV looks crap when there's no one in the crowd. You want to look at that and think, shit, we've got to go to one of these games. You want to walk away from them game thinking, shit, we've got to go here next week. Like, it's not the same on TV. The atmosphere is so good. We need to get back here. Yep. Right now, it's like so many people are starting to say, I'll just watch it at home. I'd just rather watch it at home, And if you go over to, say, we've spoken about it before a couple of years ago and last year, if you go over to the college football games, everyone wants to be at the game. No one wants to watch it on TV. It's the opposite over there,
The suburban grounds have been taken away from it, and that tribal type feel, when you're playing, Canterbury Bulldogs playing at Belmore, it's a tribal feel there,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Tribal. That's exactly right. I take it back. Even if wouldn't it be good if they just did it for one season? I know I'd probably lose a lot of money initially, but the strength of the product would just be through the roof. Man, I've been watching the marketing closely in that lately, and I don't know who's in charge there, but it just looks so. It's not enticing at all, is it?
No, what you're talking pre-game.
Yeah, just all the marketing around the NRL at the moment, and I'm not trying to be negative. Like, I know it must be a hard job, but it doesn't have the same feel. I was speaking to a mate who lives upstairs. He's an absolute madman for Parramatta and just rugby league in general. Watches every game, and even he this year said, "Mate, I'm not that interested. Like, I used to rush home to watch the footy. Now I might just skim through the highlights, fast forward bits, and." He's just not that interested. He goes, mate, it just seems to have lost that magic. And it was good listening to an outsider, someone who's never played, the game at kind of a high level when he was young. And he just says, I've just completely lost the passion to watch it. And he said, he's a businessman too, and he goes, in his opinion, a lot of it's got to do with the marketing of it and how the atmosphere around it seems to have just gone. It's become about the money, and it's obvious, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Suburban grounds have got to come back into it. When you look at, say, a Raiders home game where they have that clap, that brings it back, doesn't it? That brings it back, that sort of feel. Yeah.
Mate, how good is it when you see like the Tigers are playing at Leichhardt and it's packed? It looks like you couldn't possibly fit one more human in there, and there's just. I can imagine. I remember when we used to go there when I was little and watch you, and you'd just be on the hill at Leichhardt and. You'd have a pie and everyone would be having a beer and Yahoo, and you'd have crazy people walking around all dressed up and face paints and it was just madness. It was hard to get to, but the journey to get there made it worthwhile when you got there because it was like this big, journey type thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Now it's all easy parking, straight in, straight out.
You still have
very corporate.
Yeah, it is. It's quite clinical and
doesn't feel tribal. It feels the opposite to tribal.
There's still those sort of supporters around where they get dressed up and do the face painting and it's crazy. But because it's in such a big, vast space, as in Homebush, you don't get that same connection.
The Eels had Parajesus, you had, the crazy Bulldog supporters would be going crazy, sometimes a little too crazy, but yeah, you know what I mean. Just that tribal warfare that's to me what made rugby league. Like that made it rugby league.
Yeah,
and it seems to have died over the last,
the changes the changes for the corporate, the business, the money. It has made it very clinical and what's the word? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
what the word is.
Another thing my mate said, which made a good point. He made a good point. He said. They tried to take an East Coast or a local kind of game Australia-wide, and they're trying to go with this global feel, and it just doesn't suit the game. It's like AFL. They're so successful with their crowds and their brand because they just know what it is and they stick to it. And people are attracted to it because that's strong in its own sense. Whereas footy are trying to think outside the box, rugby league's trying to think outside the box and expand, and it just, I don't know, it just has decimated the core, that tribal core, and it's lost its for me, like, and I'm not someone who's an avid football watcher, but just from the outside looking in as a spectator or, a casual fan, over the last couple of years especially, it's really died in the arse, that excitement of the game. And I'm sure people disagree and they have great times when they go to the footy, and you can still have a great time when you go to the footy. But yeah, just on, mate, take it back. When you were playing, Dad, like how good was it to know that the Eels were playing Canterbury at Belmore, or and you just you'd just go there and you'd be nervous, like, oh, this is such a big occasion. And I remember having grand final days, all getting around mates' houses and playing footy out in the grass and watching the game and just watching it seemed to be more atmosphere around. I don't know if that's because I've grown up and you see things for what they are, but it just, I don't know.
No, the changes haven't been good. I mean, AFL have a monopoly of in all states. I mean, they were just Victoria at one stage, but they have
expanded, but they seem to have done it better. I don't know how they've done it better, but they just have.
I think the game was more of a whole, more of an Australian game as a whole around Australia. A lot more people in the other states before it went anywhere were more AFL players, more AFL watchers. Yeah.
And it depends on what each individual fan thinks. in regards to expanding the game. Some people think it should be, worldwide, but I don't know. I think it was best when it was less teams, less size, like least smaller size stadiums. All those elements made rugby league what it is, and we've gone the other way from it.
Yeah, just the east coast of Australia was known as just the rugby league in Sydney generally, but then it transferred to Brisbane. But the east coast of Australia was rugby league. Everything else was AFL.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure there's some disagreeers out there.
Yeah. What else has been happening? Did you know?
What? Here we go.
Did you know that there's a fella, a Swiss man called Werner Jaisley?
Oh, yeah, I know him.
He's a UFO enthusiast, and he travelled to Argentina. Apparently, he's been told by the aliens to build a site in Argentina for them to land. So he claims he spoke to the aliens, and he made a landing pad basically for the UFOs to turn up. Now, I'm not sure when they're supposed to turn up, but it's quite interesting, the photos of the work that he put in to make this site. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, wow.
Do you believe in aliens?
I personally think they're... I think they're spiritual. I think it's spiritual. I think they're demons, to be honest.
Demons, okay.
Yeah, I think it's... I think they're demons.
You don't see them as sort of little googly eye beings that want to help humanity?
Yeah. I think they take on physical bodies.
Yep.
Yeah, I watched a fair bit of stuff where these ex-CIA so-and-sos say that they spoke and met with and communicated telepathically with these aliens that have been hidden and whatnot. And
is that the reptilian thing?
Yeah. A lot of them they talk about the reptilian side of it. It's an evil entity that takes on a physical body, and in order to infiltrate or just kind of monitor. And there's some of the people I've listened to say that they're walking around here like you could be working next to one. You just wouldn't know, and they can operate like a human. And it's just so crazy. It seems so crazy, mate. It really does. But I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting to listen to these people so passionately describe, what they think they've experienced.
Well, I just hope this happens. So wouldn't it be just amazing to watch a ship or some sort of a plane or something that comes down, a disc-shaped type thing and they actually land, just to actually see that, or for something like that to actually happen would just change the whole perspective of what we've ever thought or what we have ever believed. What
we've been told.
What we've been told, or whatever you think or whatever you believe is that moment would just combine every soul on earth to see something like that.
Yeah, in either fear or whatever else.
Yeah, it'd bring the world together. You'd forget about where you're from and what your nationality is. To see something like that would just bring everyone together as a human, I think.
Yeah, it depends on what the motive of the aliens was, I guess.
That's another story, yeah, if they're going to blow us all up or it's War of the Worlds or whatever it is.
Yeah. I don't know, I've been watching a lot of stuff and reading a lot of stuff about the Earth not being a ball lately, and the more you get into it, you start thinking, am I going crazy here? Is this making sense? Because if you line up the two, say the top 10 questions for and against either side, it's really a lot easier. It seems a lot less far-fetched to believe that we're stationary and there's things revolving around us opposed to us spiraling around the sun as a big wet ball, like a rotisserie going around with all the other planets, and the big fireball sun is just flying through the atmosphere at however fast it's flying. When you line up the two top 10 sciences for either theory next to each other, you look at the flat one and you go, it's 10 times easier to bloody think that would happen than this crazy shit.
Well, yeah, because we don't understand the science, or we don't know how to make an answer scientifically.
Well, these people on both sides, they offer their explanation of the science, and when they do, you're like, far out. If you were just born and you just came to consciousness and you started understanding things, and we grew up thinking, say, it was flat, and then all of a sudden they started saying this big wet ball that's spinning and then, rolling around the sun, flying through the space, you would think, oh, he's a bloody crazy. That's really crazy. Whereas the flat one's easier to kind of, it makes a bit more sense, like in regards to what we know physically as humans, like what's capable on a what's the word, on a quantum physics level or a physiological level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I know what you're saying, but I think the internet and all that sort of stuff, YouTube and all those particular things have created that conspiracy theory is a possibility. No matter which way you look at things, it's possible. They bring up arguments that are plausible and possible to believe, and all this has become really heavy because of what we can look at on the internet, what we can see on the computer and stuff. So it just creates more questions for me.
You're right. It does. It really does just create more questions. But it's it can be a bit of a head fuck, but it's kind of a good thing in a way, because otherwise all we have ever known is what other people have told us. And the school curriculums and the things you grow up learning, they're put in place by systems, by governments who you just don't know what their agenda might be. And a lot of the times, big bodies, big governments like that, their agenda is often money. So, and you can see that throughout history. Like if you look at history books with false flag attacks and things like that, and things that the government have pulled that, come to light 20, 30 years later, and you're like, it makes sense. Like when Hitler, attacked his own buildings and said it was Poland, and then had the media say it was Poland, so they got the backing of everyone to go and, invade Poland. And,
let's have a world war.
See it also with the Pearl Harbor incident. Like now they're admitting that was,
false flag.
Dodgy. And then you see it with, even now, like when 9/11 first occurred, and anyone who used to say anything about it being dodgy and not what they told us, you were considered a crazy nut. And now when you start saying things like that in today, a lot more people are like, oh yeah, that was dodgy. Like whether or not it was an inside job, we don't know, but definitely wasn't what they've told us. They're hiding something, Like if you had to say that back in the day, you're considered a psycho. So you just see in time, like after 20, 30 years of a big event like that, and kind of the truth slowly just kind of drip feeds out.
Yeah.
It's just a scary thought.
No matter what the topic, you can type anything to Google or YouTube and you can get an argument for and against for any topic ever.
Yeah. But do you reckon that's better or worse? Do you reckon it's better to have access to other information that leads to other possibilities, or you think it's just better, the less we know, the better, and we just shut up and do what the government have put in schools as a curriculum?
I don't know. It's better to view it as a healthy argument between people, but it doesn't end up that way. It ends up as factions, and everyone's you're a dickhead for thinking that, and I'm a dickhead.
Yeah, ego always gets in the way. Yeah, 100%. I've done it myself. You get into a little debate on, say, Twitter, and it goes back and forth, and you think now it's just about me winning the argument. It's not about, like, honestly, I don't care. I don't care if the Earth's a ball or it's flat or it's a friggin' oblong. I don't care. Like, I'm just interested in knowing the actual truth. Like, it'd be interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't care if I'm wrong now. Like at the start, I was like, "No, I'm right. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck if I'm wrong. Who cares?" It just makes a bit of sense. Some of the shit they say, I'm like, "Fuck, that makes so much sense." Like,
it creates a burning desire in whoever's looking at either way, either argument, to know what the truth is. It derives from people wanting to know the truth. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's a bloody spin out watching it all. It's they go into some great detail, some great little articles written by, apparent astrophysicists and Navy, what's it called, Air Force pilots and
but how do you know they're dead set?
Because some of them they show you some of them have actual interviews on TV and you can see that it's all legit. And you can see like the photos of them growing up and going through the ranks, and they show you, like they give you a brief history on the good ones. They give you a brief history of at least of who the person is talking and why he's come to think that, and then you can go deep dive further if you like. And a couple of times I've gone, right, I got this bloke's name, and I'll put it in Google, and then trace it down, and you know, 5 pages deep in Google, and you find that this bloke is legitimately a friggin' astrophysicist, or he was in the army, and he was in the Air Force, and you can find out, really, if you're just listening to the first guy you see on there and you just say that's true, you're an idiot, really. So
none of it's made me any wiser. It's just made me more confused more than anything.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's good.
You just start thinking, bloody, why would they lie? What's the point? And it always seems to, the theories always seem to lead to some sort of money situation.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? Anyway, you're spinning my head out. I've got to go. I've got things to do. I can't talk shit all day with you.
Oh, okay. I'll just ring someone else in.
All right, cool. What's happening this afternoon?
Now, I'm halfway through writing an ebook, actually.
Oh, you still going with that? Cool. Going all right?
Yeah, it's going good. It's nearly finished now. I've just got to add a little 7-day meal plan on the end of it, and it should be be done, and it'll be out soon. So
good stuff.
We're going to speak to a fella. We'll interview him. We'll have a chat to him about his. You know, he was told 18 months ago he had 18 months to live. He's got pretty severe cancer, and it's all over him. You can see it like it's sticking out of his skin. He's like all lumpy and bumpy, and he's a top bloke. He's a businessman, and he's very intelligent. He wrote a book called Stop Bitching and Get Rich, or something like that. And it became a #1 bestseller. And it's he's an incredible mind, and he just his journey of going through, you know, being told he has cancer and has this long to live, and he's still kicking, and he's still making things happen, and making progress, and he's about to have stem cell treatment. So it'll be interesting to see, his thoughts on the whole industry, mate. I had a good chat to him upstairs a while ago, and he was just some of the things he was saying about the medical industry and how corrupt it is. And from his experiences, and some of the things he's been told and had to do, and it's just made him sicker and sicker. And you know, he's onto him now, and he's starting to turn it around. So
that'll be interesting.
Have a chat to him. His name's Tony. Yeah, we'll have a chat to him, and we'll get that out there for everyone to have a listen to.
Yeah, sounds good. Look forward to that.
Turn into a conspiracy theory podcast.
You've turned it into it.
Well, look, I'm sick of talking about the fucking weather. I can tell you that much. There's a conspiracy theory about the weather.
Oh, is it? It doesn't really exist? Yeah, good.
All right, Pat. I'll speak to you soon, eh?
All right, mate. Have a good day.
Good luck.
Catch you.